Her name is Haley Wilson. She's 32 years old. She lives alone in a sunlit apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts, filled with hanging plants, art from local creators, and the scent of vanilla candles that she lights every evening without fail. To the outside world, she looks successful. A senior marketing manager at a rising tech company, she's led campaigns that helped brands go viral, mentored new hires, and landed bonuses her younger self would never have dreamed of. She has a gym membership she rarely uses, a half-finished novel saved on her laptop, and a circle of loyal friends who meet for brunch every other Sunday. But if you asked her what truly shaped her, she wouldn't say her career. She wouldn't say the city or even her independence. She would say one word: Kevin. Kevin Wilson. Her older brother, 4 years older. Her rock, her protector, her entire childhood. Haley and Kevin were inseparable. Backyard forts, snowball fights, midnight snacks when their parents fought. When the world felt too loud, it was always Kevin who told her, "We got this, Hales. It's you and me." He gave her the nickname Hales when she was 7 and refused to call her anything else since. When their parents' marriage imploded, shouting, slammed doors, threats of custody lawyers, it was Kevin who stepped in like a second parent. He was only 19, a freshman at Penn State, and yet he drove home almost every weekend. Not because he had to, but because she needed him. He took her for ice cream on Sundays, let her rant, let her cry, told her it was okay to be scared, and even more okay to feel too much. She never forgot those weekends. And maybe that's why what he did later hurt more than anything anyone else could have done. Because Kevin wasn't just her brother. He was her compass, her mirror, the one person who saw her when no one else did. And now he was about to pretend she didn't exist. But Haley didn't know that yet. Not here. Not in this version of the story where she still believed they were unbreakable. It was a Tuesday morning, just like any other. Haley had just returned from her morning run along the Charles River. The air was crisp with the first breath of fall. Her sneakers were still damp from dew. She showered, made her usual breakfast smoothie, then headed downstairs to check the mail. The lobby of her apartment smelled like fresh paper and someone else's coffee. She opened the brass mailbox like she always did, expecting bills, flyers, maybe a coupon. But today was different. There it was, a cream-colored envelope. Thick, elegant. Her brother Kevin's handwriting on the front. Flowing, familiar. Her heart jumped. Finally, the invitation, the one she'd been waiting for months. For a moment, Haley stood still, holding the envelope to her chest, smiling. He remembered. Of course he did. I was never really out. She raced upstairs, pulse quickening. She sat at her kitchen table, lit her favorite candle, opened the envelope slowly, reverently. But what she found inside wasn't an invitation. There was no RSVP card, no date, no gold-embossed details, just a small handwritten note. Dear Haley, I hope this note finds you well. Stephanie and I wanted to let you know that our wedding ceremony and reception will be an adults-only event. We hope you understand, and we look forward to celebrating with you another time. Love, Kevin. Haley blinked. Once, twice. Adults only? She read it again. She was 32 years old. No kids, no partner, a working professional. This couldn't be real. But it was. The blood drained from her face. Her hands trembled. The wedding invitation she had waited months to receive wasn't an invitation at all. It was a formal rejection. Dressed up in polite handwriting and expensive stationery. It didn't matter that she was his only sibling. It didn't matter that they'd shared bunk beds, tears, and childhood secrets. All that mattered was that Haley Wilson wasn't welcome. And just like that, the world tilted. Everything she thought she knew about her brother, about her place in his life, began to shatter. I'm 32. What the hell does that even mean? The words escaped Haley's mouth before she even realized she'd said them out loud. She stood in her kitchen, frozen, staring down at the small note in her hand like it had just delivered a death sentence. Her pulse was pounding in her ears. Her throat went dry. She read the message again, then again, as if some hidden line might suddenly appear, as if this was a cruel joke she'd somehow missed. But the words never changed. And the meaning stayed the same. She wasn't invited. The air in the apartment turned heavy. The smell of vanilla from the candle made her nauseous now. She ripped the note in half, then regretted it, then sat down, then stood up again. She grabbed her phone. Her fingers trembled as she dialed Kevin's number. Straight to voicemail. She hung up, called again, voicemail. Third time, still no answer. She stared at the screen, waiting. As if just by watching, he might magically call her back. He didn't, so she texted, "Kev, I just got your note. I'm confused. Adults only? I'm literally an adult. Can we talk?" She watched the message go through, waited. 3 dots blinked, then disappeared. Silence. 10 minutes later, a single reply. "In meetings all day. Venue is tight on capacity. It's just easier this way. Talk later." Just easier this way. Easier for who? Not for her. Certainly not for the sister who had always shown up. Not for the sister who remembered every birthday, sent Celtics tickets, drove hours when he broke up with Melissa. Not for the sister who believed he would never hurt her. Haley stared at the message, then set the phone down. Hard. She gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, breathing ragged, tears burning behind her eyes. But she refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not for this. Not for him. Haley didn't want to believe it. Not completely. Not yet. Part of her still hoped it was a misunderstanding, that maybe Kevin made a mistake, that maybe this was Stephanie's doing and he didn't realize how cruel it looked. So she did something she rarely did when she was angry. She called her mom. The phone rang twice before her mother answered. Cheerful voice, as if nothing in the world was wrong. "Hi, sweetheart," her mom said. "Everything okay?" Haley hesitated. Her voice cracked as she asked, "Did you know about the wedding?" Silence. Just silence. Then a sigh. "I was hoping they'd change their minds," her mom admitted quietly. "I thought maybe, at the last minute, Kevin would come around." Haley froze. "So, you knew?" Another pause. "Stephanie's parents are covering most of the expenses," her mom continued, "and they have very specific ideas. And Kevin, well, he didn't fight it. Didn't fight it. Didn't even try." Haley's heart dropped. She waited for her mother to say more, to say it was wrong, to say she fought for her, to say anything. Instead, her mother whispered, "Sometimes keeping the peace is more important." Haley bit her lip hard. Her eyes burned. Peace. What kind of peace allows one child to be excluded for the comfort of others? What kind of mother keeps quiet when her daughter is erased from her own family? She tried to speak, but there was nothing left to say. She asked the only question that mattered. "Are you going?" Another pause. Longer. "I'm sorry, honey," her mom said softly. "Yes, I'll be there." That was it. The second blow, sharper than the first. Not only was Haley not invited, but everyone else was going, smiling, toasting, pretending she didn't exist, and her own mother had made peace with it. Right then, Haley realized something deeper than rejection. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a choice. She hadn't just been forgotten. She'd been left behind by the people who were supposed to stand beside her the longest. Before there was silence, there was warmth. Before the ignored texts and missed calls, there was Kevin. There was Kevin who once showed up at her dorm at 2 a.m. with chicken soup and a blanket just because Haley said she was sad. There was Kevin who once drove through a snowstorm to help her move into her first apartment, who never missed a birthday, who knew exactly how she liked her coffee. Extra cream, no sugar. But after Stephanie, something began to shift. At first, it was subtle. The Sunday night phone calls, a sacred tradition since college, started arriving later, then shorter, then skipped altogether. The inside jokes, the stories only they knew, they were met with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. When she brought up their childhood Cape Cod fireflies, building forts in the backyard, Kevin would say, "Yeah, I remember," but he'd already be looking at Stephanie for approval, as if their past no longer fit his future. At family dinners, he'd sit closer to Stephanie, talk more about the law firm, less about life. When Haley texted just to say, "Hey, miss," she'd get a thumbs up, nothing more. When she sent thoughtful birthday gifts books he once said he wanted, he'd reply with, "Thanks, appreciate it," instead of the old excited calls she used to get. It wasn't overnight. That's what made it worse. It was slow erosion, like water dripping on stone, quiet, constant, and suddenly gone. The brother who once said, "We're in this life together, you and me," now barely remembered to ask about her life at all. And Haley, she kept pretending, kept making excuses. "He's just busy. She's probably stressed. Things will go back to normal." But deep down, she knew something had shifted, and she was no longer invited into the world Kevin was building. It wasn't just the wedding. Once Haley let herself replay the last few years, she saw it. The pattern. The holiday party at Kevin's law firm. He had told her it was for employees only, said it was just a work thing, nothing big. But a week later, she saw the photos on Facebook. Co-workers had brought their siblings, friends, even dates. Everyone was dressed up, drinking champagne beneath crystal chandeliers. Everyone except her. Then there was the housewarming. Kevin and Stephanie had just bought a brownstone in Beacon Hill. Haley had helped them search listings 6 months earlier. She sent Kevin moving tips, even offered her car to help them transport boxes. But the party? She found out about it on Instagram. One blurry story post from a mutual friend, Stephanie, posing with a glass of red wine beside a cheese board. Kevin laughing in the background. Everyone tagged, everyone mentioned, except Haley. She had texted Kevin that night, "Did you have a housewarming party today?" He replied the next morning, "Oh, it was super last minute. Just a few people from Steph's office. Nothing major. Would have been too crowded." But the photos told another story. Then came New Year's Eve. The final punch. Haley had spent it alone in her apartment. She made Thai noodles, poured a glass of wine, and watched fireworks from her window. At midnight, her phone lit up with a tag. Someone had posted a boomerang. Kevin, Stephanie, and a group of couples clinking champagne glasses on a snow-covered deck in Vermont. Couples she didn't even know. Friends of Stephanie's mostly. No Haley, no text, no invitation, no explanation. She stared at her screen, heart pounding. It wasn't a mistake anymore. This was a pattern. A slow fade? No, a silent erasure. 1 exclusion is a misunderstanding. 2 is coincidence. 3 is a message. Stephanie was never cruel, not in the obvious way. She didn't scream, she didn't insult, she didn't forbid. Instead, she smiled. She said the right things, used the right tone, wore elegance like armor. When Haley first met her, it was at a sleek restaurant in Back Bay. Stephanie wore a pearl necklace, a tailored dress, and a calculated smile. "Kevin's told me so much about you," she said. But her voice, it didn't sound curious. It sounded rehearsed. That dinner was when Haley first saw it. The way Kevin's posture changed around Stephanie. The way he watched her for cues. The way he sought approval without realizing it. Every time Haley brought up their childhood, Stephanie changed the subject. Every time Haley made a joke, Stephanie offered a tight smile, then pivoted to legal cases, country clubs, or more relevant topics. Haley could feel it, that subtle pull like a door slowly closing behind her. At first, she told herself it was just insecurity, that Stephanie needed time, that it wasn't personal. But over time, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Stephanie didn't push Haley away, she just redefined the space so Haley wouldn't fit anymore. Brunch plans never materialized. Group texts accidentally left her out. Kevin started saying things like, "Steph's been under a lot of pressure lately. She thinks we should keep things simple. She's not comfortable with too many people from the past around." Haley began to realize she was the past, and Kevin, he was changing, slowly, almost imperceptibly. But Haley saw it. He became more careful with his words, more distant, more muted. The brother who once teased her relentlessly now filtered every sentence. The man who once stood up for her now avoided confrontation at all costs. When Haley tried to speak up, Kevin defended Stephanie, over and over. "She's not trying to exclude you, Hales. She's just private. She's not used to loud family dynamics. You're reading too much into it." But Haley wasn't reading too much. She was watching herself being quietly edited out of her own brother's life. And the worst part? He was handing Stephanie the pen. Haley held it in for days. She answered emails, she smiled at coworkers, she nodded during meetings. She even managed to say, "I'm fine," when people asked if she was okay. But she wasn't fine. She was a dam with hairline cracks. And on a cloudy Thursday morning, it broke. It started with an email, just a simple, casual message. Subject line: Kevin and Stephanie's wedding. Countdown begins. Sent to the entire extended family list. Photos attached, dress code details, smiling emojis, and Haley's name nowhere. She stared at the screen. Her ears started ringing. Her vision blurred. The room suddenly felt too loud, too bright, too fake. She stood up quietly, walked past her coworkers, pushed open the bathroom door on the third floor, locked herself in the last stall, and then she broke. Silently at first, shoulders shaking, breath hitching. Then the tears came, fast, hot, unstoppable. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying not to sob too loudly. Not here, not now, not at work. But it didn't matter, because grief doesn't wait for privacy. It doesn't care if you have meetings, or deadlines, or mascara on. She sat on the toilet lid, fists clenched, mascara running, feeling like a ghost in her own life. She had done everything right, stayed kind, stayed present, stayed hopeful, and still she was being erased by her brother, by the woman he loved, by the family who used to be hers. And the worst part, they made it look so easy. It was 2:03 a.m. Haley lay in bed, eyes wide open, phone blowing inches from her face. She had just spent the last hour scrolling through photos, #Kev and Steph tie the knot. Stephanie in her bridal robe, Kevin adjusting his cufflinks, champagne flutes, calligraphy menus, everyone smiling. Everyone but her. She wasn't in any of it. Not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, historically. She felt erased, airbrushed out of her own bloodline. And that's when something snapped. Haley sat up, heart pounding, jaw clenched. She opened her laptop, typed "solo retreats in Southeast Asia." Clicked, scrolled, clicked again. Found a flight to Chiang Mai. Leaves in 36 hours. 1 seat left. No return date. She hovered over the confirm button. For a second, doubt whispered, "Are you really doing this?" But louder came the answer, "I'm done waiting to be chosen." Click. Ticket booked. Then she stood, pulled out her carry-on, and whispered to herself, "I'm not going to sit at home and watch their wedding on effing Instagram." She wasn't running away. She was walking towards something. Freedom, peace, herself. The moment the wheels lifted off the runway, Haley felt nothing. Not fear, not excitement, not regret. Just stillness. She sat by the window, hands folded in her lap, watching the lights of Boston grow smaller, then disappear into clouds. Her phone was on airplane mode, her life on pause. No more wedding updates, no more pretending to be okay, no more waiting for someone to change their mind. As the plane rose higher, something unexpected happened. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She didn't even think about Kevin. Instead, she exhaled. A slow, full-body breath, like her ribs had been tight for years and only now remembered how to expand. It wasn't joy, it wasn't pleasure, but it was something better than pain, release. No one on the plane knew what she was leaving behind. No one asked. No one judged. And for once, that was exactly what she needed. Bangkok was chaos, humid, loud, alive. Haley stepped out of Suvarnabhumi Airport into a wall of heat, wearing sneakers too clean, a suitcase too structured, and a heart too guarded. She had no plan, just one night booked at a hostel called Lantern and Leaf in the heart of the old city. She expected silence, a place to be alone, but instead, she met Tyler. Tall, sunburnt from Oregon, photographer, said yo instead of hi, offered her mango slices like they'd been friends for years. Then came Audrey, a solo backpacker from Cape Town, talked fast, laughed louder, wore mismatched earrings, and quoted poetry. Then Maya, a quiet teacher from India who brewed her own chai in the common kitchen and always looked people in the eye when they spoke. And Luis, the chef from Argentina who called everyone mi amor and cooked dinner for 10 with just 3 ingredients and a smile. They didn't ask about her pain. They didn't dig into her past. They just saw her, right here, right now. And something in Haley softened. It started with small things. A shared breakfast, a rooftop sunset, a late-night card game under buzzing fans. She didn't say much at first, but she smiled. And when she laughed, it startled even her. Maybe, just maybe, strangers could be softer than family. They said the sanctuary was a place for elephants, but Haley realized it was a place for broken people, too. The kind who'd lost their place in the herd. The kind who carried silent wounds heavy, invisible, but real. She spent her mornings shoveling sugarcane, bathing old elephants in the river, brushing mud off thick, wrinkled skin. One of the elephants, named Dow, had a cloudy right eye, injured long ago by a circus whip. But Dow trusted her, leaned into her touch, and somehow that trust healed them both. Later in Chiang Mai, she wandered into a temple during evening prayers. Shoes off, phone off, heart cracked wide open. A monk, maybe 70 years old, sat beside her. In broken English, he said, "Expectation is a leash. You think it gives love direction, but it only pulls." And Haley just sat there, not answering, not crying, just breathing. And in that stillness, something shifted. Not dramatically, not like a movie climax, but like mist slowly lifting off a mountain. She realized Kevin would never be the same Kevin. And she had to stop trying to resurrect someone who no longer existed. Later in Krabi, she watched the ocean swallow the sun. Not once did she check Instagram. Not once did she think about who was missing her, because finally she wasn't missing herself. The waves whispered in the dark. A small fire crackled on the beach, casting warm flickers on tired faces. It was their last night in Krabi. No one planned it, but somehow that fire became a confession booth. Tyler went first. He stared into the flames and said, "I haven't talked to my sister in 3 years. We grew up like twins, but she married this guy who hated me, and she chose him." "No drama, just heartbreak," said softly. Then Maya spoke, her voice barely above the sound of the wind. "My family fought over a will after my dad died. We said things you can't unsay. I still dream about the last time I saw my brother." Even Audrey, always full of jokes, admitted, "My mom blocked me on Facebook after I quit law school." And that's when Haley realized everyone here had a Kevin, or a Stephanie, or a silence they never deserved. Pain didn't make her special. It made her human. So she shared too. Not the whole story, but enough. Enough for her to feel the weight lift just a little. And when they all sat in silence again, it wasn't awkward. It was holy. Like the ocean had taken their stories and promised to hold them safe. It didn't happen with fireworks, not with shouting, not with tears. It happened the next morning when Haley woke up to the sound of waves and the smell of strong Thai coffee. She looked around the hostel patio. Tyler was sketching an elephant in his notebook. Audrey was braiding her hair and humming off-key. Maya was quietly reading under the bougainvillea vines. Louis was frying eggs for everyone, shirtless and grinning. Haley sat down, still sleepy. Audrey slid her a mug without a word. Tyler winked. Louis said, "Eat, you look like a raisin." They laughed. And that's when it hit her. This was family. Not blood, not obligation, but people who see you as you are and stay. For the first time in years, Haley didn't feel like a burden, or too emotional, or the one who ruins everything. She was simply Haley, and that was enough. All the pain, all the rejection didn't make her unworthy. It made her real. And if these people, these messy, hilarious, imperfect strangers could still choose her, then maybe she could choose herself too. It was 12:12 a.m. in Krabi. The phone buzzed. Kevin calling. Haley sat up, heart racing, hands shaking. She hadn't heard that name pop up on her screen in months. She answered. "Haley?" His voice was slurred, slow. I messed up. I should have invited you." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Not yet. "You're my sister. I love you. Steph said, "Kevin!" A woman's voice screamed in the background. "Hang up! Right now!" The line crackled. Then silence. Haley stared at the screen. Call ended. That was it. No apology, no tears, just a drunken whisper, drowned by control. She dropped the phone on the bed, and for the first time, she didn't cry. She just lay there, looking at the ceiling fan spin slowly in the dark, and whispered to herself, "That was the last time I wait for you." Haley stared at the screen for a few seconds after the call ended. Then, slowly, she put the phone face down. No tears, no screaming, no replaying the call 1,000 times in her head. Just one breath, deep and clean. Then came the whisper, low, steady, almost like a vow. "You don't get to pull me back anymore." I stood up, on my own. And for the first time in a long time, she smiled. Not a smile for show, not the kind you wear at family dinners to prove you're fine, but a small, quiet smile that starts in the chest and rises up to say, "I made it. You didn't break me, and I no longer need your permission to feel whole." Outside, the sun was rising over Krabi. A golden line split the horizon, and in that light, she wasn't lost anymore. Haley didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat by the window of the hostel, a soft breeze rolling through the curtains, and opened a blank page on her journal. Then she started to write, not with anger, not to make Kevin feel guilty, but because she needed to let it out, somewhere. "Dear Kevin," she began, "I waited for months. I kept telling myself the invite was late, that you were busy, that I still mattered. But when that envelope came and I saw those 5 cold words, 'Sorry, this event is adults only,' a part of me shattered that I didn't even know was still holding on." She paused, then continued, "I don't hate Stephanie. I don't even hate you. But I hate the version of myself I became, begging for crumbs of love from people who should have offered me a seat at the table without asking." She kept writing. About childhood, about inside jokes no one remembered but her, about birthdays he missed, about how silence can scream louder than words. Then she ended with this, "You don't have to understand. This letter isn't for you. It's for me, because today I choose to stop bleeding for people who never even noticed the cut." She folded the letter, carefully, placed it inside her passport, and smiled. Not because it was over, but because she no longer needed it to continue. Chiang Mai didn't need to impress her. It just welcomed her. The mornings came gently soft sunrises over the mountains, gold light sliding through bamboo blinds. Haley began to wake up early, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Each day started with silence, then a cup of tea, then long walks past temples still wet with incense smoke. She learned to cook Thai food with a grandmother who didn't speak English, but somehow they laughed all the same. She meditated beside Maya under a Bodhi tree, sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes for an hour. Sometimes they just sat, no words, no need. There were no missed calls, no guilt trips, no sideways glances asking, "Are you okay?" For once, she actually was. In Chiang Mai, Haley wasn't the sister who didn't get invited. She wasn't the over-emotional one. She wasn't too much or not enough. She was just Haley. No edits, no apologies, just peace. And that peace didn't feel borrowed. It felt earned. Haley turned the key and pushed open the door. Same apartment, same view, same kitchen table she used to cry at. But the woman walking through the door, not the same. She didn't drop her bags and sigh. She didn't check her phone for messages from Kevin. She didn't feel that old heaviness wrap around her like a wet coat. Instead, she took a deep breath and smiled. "Home," she whispered, "but mine, on my terms." She started changing things. Nothing too loud, but everything intentional. The couch? Gone. Replaced by a hammock chair. She printed photos from Thailand, the elephant sanctuary, Tyler making funny faces, Maya meditating under the tree, and framed them. They lined the hallway like memories she chose to keep. She bought plane tickets. Next stop, Morocco. Maybe Lisbon after that. Not to run, not to escape, but because the world was wide again, and this time she had space inside her to hold it. Same apartment, but now it finally felt like hers. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The sky was overcast. Boston felt quiet in a way she hadn't noticed before. Then the message came. "Kevin, hey, I'd like to talk. Can we meet?" For a moment, Haley's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Old reflexes kicked in. The little sister in her almost typed, "Of course." "When?" But she stopped. She looked out the window, watched a mother and daughter pass by holding hands. Then she opened the reply box and typed slowly. "Kevin, I'm glad you reached out, but you need to understand something. I'm not the same person who waited for a wedding invitation that never came. I've changed. And one thing I've learned, apologies without action mean nothing. You say you're sorry, but Stephanie still pretends I don't exist. You still haven't stood up for me. So tell me, what exactly are you sorry for? Don't just say it, show me. Until then, we're not ready to meet." She pressed send. No tears this time, no doubt, no hope clinging to a maybe. Just a woman choosing herself without guilt. A few days later, Kevin called again, this time sober, this time serious. "I want to fix things, Haley. I really do. Can we at least talk?" Haley didn't raise her voice, didn't list every betrayal, didn't beg for recognition. Instead, she spoke calmly. "You can start over, Kevin, but this time, you start from the beginning. You don't get shortcuts just because we have the same last name. You don't get a front row seat in my life without showing up consistently with respect. Being my brother used to be a gift. You treated it like a guarantee. That's over now." Kevin was silent. Haley didn't fill the space. She let the silence teach. Because rangzai khumfai lazi trumfat ai. Boundaries aren't punishments. They are doors you only walk through if you're ready to knock first. One morning, as Haley sipped her coffee near the window, her phone lit up. Tyler, Peru. March, bring your camera. We're chasing light and llamas. Maya, come stay in Canada this summer. I miss our 5 a.m. meditations. Audrey, Japan in October. Street food, neon nights. Let's get lost. Haley smiled. Not because someone picked her, but because she now knew she could choose. She wasn't the forgotten little sister anymore, not the background character in someone else's story. She was the author now, the traveler, the woman who said yes to herself. The girl who once cried over not being invited to a wedding now had 3 invitations from around the world, not out of pity, but out of connection. No guilt, no chasing. No waiting for approval. Just living, on purpose, with joy. And that was more than enough. The table was dressed in soft golds and oranges. The turkey was carved. The wine was poured. And yet the room was tense. Stephanie barely nodded when Haley walked in. Same cold eyes, same tight smile. But Haley, she didn't flinch. She wore a pale blue sweater, brought a bottle of Thai wine. And when her mother asked, "How was your trip?" she answered not to impress, not to prove, but with simple joy. It was exactly what I needed. Across the table, Kevin kept fidgeting. He passed her the mashed potatoes with a shaky hand. "Thanks for coming, Haley. It means a lot." She looked at him, calm, steady. "I didn't come for you, Kevin. I came for me. No anger, no resentment, just truth." Haley didn't chase the warmth that never came. She brought her own. She no longer sat waiting to be invited. She showed up for herself. And that Thanksgiving was the first time she truly gave thanks for the woman she had become. The apartment was quiet. Soft music played in the background. Steam curled from a mug of tea. Haley stood by her desk looking at a framed photo, her own face laughing under the Thai sun, wind in her hair, cheeks glowing with salt and freedom. Next to the photo, a calendar with red circles around new dates. Peru, Tokyo, Nova Scotia, each one a place she chose. Not for anyone else, not to be accepted, but because it lit something in her soul. She touched the glass frame and smiled. Then, in voiceover, calm, clear, and full of quiet triumph, "I used to think being left out of the wedding was the most painful thing that ever happened to me." She paused. "But what I didn't know is that it was actually an invitation to the most important celebration of all my life." Fade to black. End credits roll. A soft piano note lingers. Sometimes being left out isn't a rejection, it's a redirection. Haley thought the worst thing was not being invited to the wedding, but that no became the door to her yes. Yes to self-worth, yes to healing, yes to a life where she no longer waited to be chosen because she chose herself. So if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if someone made you feel like too much or not enough, remember this: you don't need their invitation to start living. You only need your own permission. If this story touched something in you, if you saw a part of yourself in Haley, don't leave just yet. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because here on this channel, we tell stories for the ones who were told they didn't belong and remind them you've always belonged. To yourself, to your voice, to your story.